everybody. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Please be seated and welcome once again. We have some guests. Our guest speaker will be introducing just momentarily, and we welcome back Peggy Keene, as associate. So, Peggy, I wonder if you would be do the honor of introducing your associate Bill.
Sure. So
you know more about him than
5 minutes.
definitely, but that's okay. So this is Bill Leiner. He's been with Vitae for quite some time. I think he did. And you went to Lehigh Valley Health Network. Am I getting that right?
Lehigh Valley Health Network to Vitae,
Okay.
and I ended up in Easton Hospital for a little bit, but they had some challenges, and I went back to.
And he's back now. But Bill is a registered nurse, and Bill also writes part-time for the Lehigh Valley Press. Am I getting that right? Okay. So Bill's going to be our speaker today, and he's going to tell you all about Vitae Wellness and Recovery. Did I leave anything out?
But it's certainly a pleasure to be here. You guys do enormously important work. You're working mostly with kids. And certainly in our society, we do most of some people, the most important groups of people are the kids. And I'm 69, so therefore I'm away in for the senior citizens too. So it's great work. It's an honor to be here. One thing I would like to add, just to my little resume, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a board certified psychiatric and mental health nurse. But in a prior career, I worked, you may recall, a company called Bethlehem Steel. I worked down in the Bethlehem plant for 27 years. I started when I was 19 years of age, shoveling, sweeping, and worked my way up to what's called a craft tested machinist A, a union official down there. And it was the very interesting aspect of working there and then becoming a nurse is that at Bethlehem Steel, I basically worked with almost entirely men in the plant. And I represented them as a union president. And then when I went into nursing, and although there's more males in the mental health field, behavioral health, than in nursing in general, it still was predominantly all female. And it was very interesting to contrast the experiences I had there. But now I'm working for a company called Vitae Wellness and Recovery. There's no doubt that Peggy and I, who's thinking about becoming a member here, which is great. We could stay here till about 11 o'clock at night talking about extolling the important things that we do for folks 18 years of age and up. And our mission is serving communities by promoting hope, health, and wellness. We are dedicated to providing holistic, person-centered, strength-based, trauma-informed service that support individual rights to meaningful, fulfilling lives in the community, and creating a safe environment promoting hope, growth, self-esteem, and supportive relationships, and breaking down barriers, reducing stigma, expanding opportunities, integrating individuals into everyday life. We could spend the 45 minutes talking simply about all the elements in this slide. There's so many things that are in there that are enormously important, and we're all engaged in many of these things that are written up there, but it's very important to help folks that have challenges in their lives to succeed to their greatest capability, which is one of our goals. Now, our vision is the acronym is PEACE, promoting belonging, embracing diversity, advancing potential, celebrating hope, and emphasizing self-respect. Now, we offer a bunch of different services. One is residential services. We have personal care homes to apartments, rural to community-based. We have a large personal care home in Lineport, Pennsylvania, which is in Lehigh County, which happens to be where our home office is. And then we have a whole bunch of apartment programs down in Quakertown, Upper Bucks County. We have a large personal care home down there called Quakertown House. And we operate a mental health center down there. So we have a wide array of things that we're doing. They're in a safe, supervised environment. As you guys probably read the whole thing already while I'm sidebarring. And one thing that's popular with our residents, they get a complimentary YMCA membership at the YMCA in Quakertown. So there's a lot of wonderful things going on. We do have educational tutoring, pre-vocational, vocational assistance, which is enormously important because we get a fairly large number of, when I say kids, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds coming up from, could be from anywhere, but a lot of them from Philadelphia, never finished high school. So we'll work with them to help them either get their GED or they can go to Southern Lehigh High School or Quakertown High School. And of course, when they graduate, we have a nice celebration and cake and all that, because it's truly a big deal and important thing. And when I was a kid, maybe some of the other folks that are a little along in life, when I was a kid, it was just basically given that everybody gets a high school diploma. And now when you read about how many kids are coming out of school that never finished high school, it's quite a potential drawback. And then as far as recovery service, we're ensconced in the recovery model, adults in recovery, families, allies. We have veteran services. We are LGBT friendly. We work with individuals with dual diagnosis, the folks that have co-occurring addiction issues and mental health issues, persons seeking non-traditional services, and adults with acquired or traumatic brain injuries. The traumatic brain injury program is about maybe 6 or 7 years old. It's still a new thing. It's growing and growing. We're in the process of expanding that. We opened a cottage for 8 folks. It'll be earmarked for veterans. And then we plan to build 5 more. Total 6.
7, total 8.
Total 8. Total 8. Thank you. I'm sorry for that. But at any rate, but those services are very, you don't realize the demand for folks with traumatic brain injuries, that the services that are needed, there are very few residential facilities around, and that's one of the reasons why we're expanding. And traumatic brain injury is a wide range of behaviors or effects of a trauma. And really, when you work with folks with traumatic brain injuries, you read about their history, and it's just a touchstone that helps you appreciate all that you have. I mean, and one quick story is you had a young woman in college, and she's in her at college away, a doorknob, she trips, falls, and hit her frontal part of her head on the doorknob. Yeah. No more school. No, it's just a tragedy. It's really sad, but those are the kind of folks with those challenges that we're trying to assist. All right, the Recovery Center is a name. We used to call it the Mental Health Center. Since we're in the recovery model, we call it the Recovery Center. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this terminology. We have a partial hospital program, outpatient psychiatric services. We're accredited by the Joint Commission. In order to receive payments from Medicare and Medicaid, for example, you have to be Joint Commission certified. And there's quite a rigorous evaluation period that you go through periodically. We are, again, person first, recovery model, trauma-informed care. We have crisis intervention service, 24/7 access to medical professionals, medication management, flexible appointments. There's individual group therapy, evidence-based practices, CBT, DBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, stages of change, motivational interviewing. If you talk about those things, you would say to yourself, wow, those are the things that some of the things I did myself in terms of trying to improve and get better. Licensed dietitian, certified peer specialist, certified addiction and pastoral counseling, and we recently opened a creative arts facility. Now, veterans, we are very happy for what we do for veterans. We partner with the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs to provide services to veterans in need. We provide them comprehensive behavioral health and substance abuse disorder services, supportive residential opportunities for homeless vets. And we will take in homeless vets. We had a guy come in a few years ago, from Allentown, living in that compound that they have, for whatever reason, they allow it in Allentown of homeless folks. This guy shows up at our he had addiction problems and mental health challenges. He shows up, we get him through the VA in Lehigh County. And the guy showed up. He looked like one of those guys that was out in the woods, hunting bear and deer and living off the land, big bushy beard. and we got him, we got him all cleaned up, good food, took care of his medications, and we got him in a great space. And he truly thrives on what we did for him. Unfortunately, he had, as if anybody has addiction in their family, it can end up in a situation where the expression is all the bridges are burned. But he had family, but it was basically gone. He did have some friends at the homeless compound that he was able to communicate with us and with them, and we provide mentoring services. We have a mentor, drive him over to his buds in the compound, hang out for a few hours, and then come back. So that's the kind of things that we do. Which for that gentleman, it was very important for his social network. All right, and we talked a little bit about the brain injury services. You have a supportive team that collaborates to provide specialized services to individuals with brain injury. Wait a second. Services ensure an integrated model focusing on the physical and behavioral health. It's person-centered care. Everybody who's served is with us in some form of program. The idea is to come in here, come to us, and set out goals. And your goals could be as simple as getting up, completing a shower, eating, taking my medicine, and just having a good day the way they describe it. It could also be some folks have cars, they go to work, they have other goals that they're working on. So it's all individually tailored, as are our brain injury services. And we're also CARF, what's called CARF accredited, Commission for on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. So you have an outside state-run organization that comes in and evaluates what we're doing. And if anybody, if you worked in healthcare, you know that when the regulatory bodies come in, they are fine of telling you what you're doing wrong and what you should be doing. And the wise manager sits there and says, that's a good idea, even though it's not a good idea. I'll share a quick example. When I was at Easton Hospital, the state came in, we had beautiful pictures on the wall. They were about maybe 2 inches hanging out, sticking out of the frame. The regulator came and said, listen, someone can hang himself off those things. You got a problem. And I tried to explain her. I told her I was a former steel worker, a machinist. I said, well, if you put the bed sheet around there, right up and down, as the guy or lady moves their head away from the wall, the angle opens up and it's going to pop off. So I don't think that's going to happen. And she said to me, that makes sense. And she said, would you mind trying that sometime this week? So I said to her, sure. So I got my one nurse, I waited until Friday, they were gone like, the one nurse says, you won't believe it. Let's give it a try. Of course you could do it. But when they're there, you say, that's a good idea. But that's a side. But don't turn the thing off that. At any rate, now we do treat folks. Well, addiction and co-occurring disorders. I've been a nurse now for 30 years, my 30-year anniversary. And years ago, addiction and mental health were like considered two different things. Mental health was considered neck up, and everything else was physical. All right, and it did such a profound disservice to people for decades in terms of their care. It's all integrated. It's all one. 3 levels of care in mental health and substance use is partial hospitalization, intensive outpatient, and traditional outpatient service. In a nutshell, partial hospitalization. You ever go to a behavioral health unit, inpatient, you're going to have group meetings set up all day. You'll be going to group meetings. When you get discharged from the unit, you're in partial hospital where you'll be at your apartment or home, and you get to a partial hospital program from like 9 to 3. You feed, you get lunch, and you're there for that. That's what that means. Intensive outpatient, that's 5 days a week. Intensive outpatients is 3 days a week. Outpatient can be as little as 1 day a week, as you see, weekly 3-day and 5-day programs. Personalized attention, it's at the recovery center, a very relaxed environment. Psychiatric and evaluation services and medication management. There's individual, family, and group therapy. We do medication-assisted treatment, Suboxone, Naltrexone, Vivitrol. That's to help people to tamp down urges and the thoughts and that precede using a substance that you shouldn't be using. we take a wide range of insurances. Deep transcranial magnetic stimulation. How many folks have heard of it? Deep TMS. It begins with a psychiatric assessment. It is to help folks who experience long-term challenging episodes of depression, major depressive disorder. All right. And it's not relieved by antidepressant medications. Safe, effective, beneficial, used in conjunction with or without medication supports. It uses magnetic impulses to stimulate brain structures known to be involved in symptoms of depression, whatever that means. And users awake and alert during the treatment in our recovery center. It is covered by Medicare and most commercial insurance. What it basically is, if you are a person who is Medicare, you need it, you get it. Right? You get it, you fill out the paperwork, you start the treatment. It could be 36 treatments for about 18 minutes long, 5 days a week, you're done. It for 60% of the folks, it lifts you out of depression. Very successful. Now, believe it or not, with the private insurance, if somebody works for Aetna, Cigna, or any of the private insurance, it's not as fun, but it's just reality. The private insurance companies say, you need that. Now, yeah, we agree with you. How many antidepressants have you failed on? Because we require you to fail on 4 different antidepressants. And how long have you been in therapy? And if you don't meet this criteria, you're done. You don't get it. Unfortunately, and now a greater injustice beyond that, I'll use the word injustice, or differentiation, is if you have Medicaid, I mean, what's your insurance? I get Medicaid. Forget it. Not covered. So I have been personally, and others been talking to state reps, state senators, and the healthcare organizations, Medicaid leaders, to say that it's just an injustice. Well, people need help, but it's very effective. And what you'll hear, probably some of us had MRIs done, where the bang, bang, bang. There's a real tiny little bing, bing here, little bing, 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 and you're reading or watching television during these treatments. Very effective. And I think St. Luke's has it. Lehigh Valley Hospital has it. There's a place down here in Easton, Lehigh Valley Wellness I think it's right on 13th Street or near 13th Street down here. They have it. So it's growing more and more despite the barriers to access it, which is really, I mean, for guys like me, it's troubling to hear that. And overview. So the takeaway is we're strength-based. Many years ago, when we had someone would have a client or a resident or consumer, whatever you want to say, whatever person was wanting services would come in, it used to be a strength need analysis. All right, what are your strengths? That's great. What are your needs? The negatives. And then you kind of put your treatment plan together, touching on both. In today's day and age, cutting edge, it's all strength-based. You forget about the negatives. It's all focused on what the person can do in a positive way and just build on those. That kind of thing. Residential treatment for adults, the intensive outpatient program, partial hospital outpatient, the deep TMS, certified peer specialist. Who knows what a certified peer specialist is? Certified peer specialist. Certified peer specialist is someone with a pretty significant mental health challenge who is doing very well in their recovery. And the state created a special training for them, those folks, and they get hired. I was at Lehigh Valley when this thing all came up, this certified peer specialist, about 15 years ago. And everybody in the hospital nervous. Who are these folks? They're going to come in and they're going to be telling us what to do, and they're going. And it turned out to be excellent. They're enormously helpful because they have lived experiences. All right. And now there's even certified recovery specialists who work with folks with addiction. And it's kind of like it's along the same line with veterans. Veterans want to interact with other veterans. Veterans with us, they need help and services. They want to know what branch we're in. They want it because they're more comfortable. And because the veterans, folks that have been in the military for a long time, they have a special way of looking, thinking, and how they're trained. So it's very interesting things. Now, of course, we serve veterans, young adults, LGBT, autism, co-carrying disorders, and brain injury. Now, that's our contact information. I gave you guys all a card of mine. if you come across anybody that anyone that you think could benefit from or needs mental health care, a veteran that's homeless, or anything that we've talked about here, or just a question in general, you got my number, just give me a call. I'll be glad to help you. Because this is all about helping folks. And you can certainly go on newvitawellness.com. If you're using a computer, check out all these services that are on there. If someone has a referral, you just hit the admission button. Very basic form comes up. You fill it out, send it in, and within 2 days, I'll get a call from our admissions team. And then those are references. Any questions? Was it talk too fast or yes, sir.
Where do you get your funding?
We get our fund. That's a very good question. And that's we have a certain. If you look at a pie graph,
Okay.
if you look at a pie graph, we have a sliver. It's a fairly small sliver of what are called high net worth referrals. In other words, these are the folks that have a lot of resources. These are the folks when I was the director of the recovery center. I was talking, in fact, a real example. I talked to one gentleman. This is what your daughter's going to need. That's going to cost. No, I don't care what it costs. Whatever she needs. That's not the majority of our folks. We have a relationship with a payer source called Community Behavioral Health in Philadelphia. They're I think they're close to $3 billion at the Medicaid payer source in Philadelphia. And they have like 600,000 members in Philly that they support. And they will pay have some stay with it. The way a private insurance company cannot pay for the rent, if you will, the rent. Kind of like the assisted living, level living, they rent. They cannot pay. There's a concept called a single case agreement. In other words, this guy here needs help. We'll take him in. He's got Blue Cross and from Blue Cross. All right. Gentleman's been in as a hypothetical scenario, which really is a real scenario. Hypothetical. This gentleman has been in and out of the behavioral health hospitals, all kinds of. If there's a crash, colloquially term flat. He's in and out of the hospital. And when the hospital folks or the insurance folks get around a table like this, and we're talking, how's Joe Schmoes? How's Joe back in the hospital? And I'm paying $1,300 $1,500. We're the group that they would contact us for a single case agreement. So when you look at all these services, of which there are more than that we do, that you saw on the PowerPoint, they will say, okay, we'll send Joe Schmo to you, but we want the partial hospitalization. He's a psychiatrist responsibility. He needs individual counseling, group counseling, mentoring. So what the insurance company will do, they'll bundle a whole bunch of services. And what's that going to cost us, the insurance company? What would be our problem? Our finance folks give them a number. They like the number. Person comes to another way of funding. Now, the sidebar, the challenge though for us when we get those single case agreements is this: everything that we agreed to get that person, that Joe Schmo, to, if he doesn't go, because we have to document it, we don't get paid. So you get, oh, it's time for partial hospital, and you think it's not wrong. So those are not another source. When I talk to folks, Medicaid is not a good payer source. Now, we have had single case agreements with Medicaid, but there's a Medicaid payer source called Miguel. I'd heard of it. They will also do that. But when I talk to folks that have Medicaid, they're not going to be able to get in. And this is not to be disrespectful, but I tell them, listen, apply anyway. Because maybe is there an uncle, an aunt, a friend, or a family member, or a family in general that can parlay together the amount of money to pay for the rent for the insurance company picking up other medication management, counseling help picked up. And I say this based on the future because I tell folks this, look, if you can get someone in with us for 2, 3, 4 months, it will have a benefit on that person. And explain this is why. When I was a nursing director at Vitae Valley, a health network, and also at Easton, and other director jobs I had, what I noticed when we had somebody on the unit, they're all what's called crisis stabilization, get them in the door, get them out, 7 to 10 day length of stay. 30 years ago, your length of stay was about 3 weeks or more. So what I found though is that people who are on these behavioral camps for a long period of time, of course, they will be much, much better. They're walking. We can't find a disposition place to send them, but they're walking around the unit doing well because they had an extra amount of time for care. And that's my pitch, if you will, or my statement to someone who really can't afford things. And because all those Medicaid programs, they can't function. They're basic. There's only a handful around. They go out of it. The economics of their business just isn't there. So that's another way we get folks paid for. But it's a challenge. I mean, we take, and Peggy would agree, we take some. We feel good that we take very challenging cases, very challenging situations. For example, when I'm around marketing to regular personal care home, walk into a regular personal care home, knickknacks all around, soft music, it's beautiful. I tell those folks when I introduce myself, because I'm representing personal care homes within our little network, I tell them, look, we are not your competition. We are the place to call when you got Joe in there and family says, you want to anybody, you guys are the administrator, you won't have any problem with Joe. He's a great guy. No problem, he's good. And then he gets in the home, and in about 2 weeks, because mental health challenges have inflow, he's there. Next thing you know, he's yelling, cursing, carrying on, throwing stuff, he's throwing food, scaring other residents. And then they're telling their families, and the families are calling the administrator. That's when you call it, because we take the folks that have the greatest challenge and need. We take the folks that in almost every hospital in the area and beyond, you have people on even med-surg units that have been there for 8, 9, 10 months, a year. We're the folks that if we evaluate if it's a good fit, we have to look at our circumstances. 2 people have to be a good fit for us. And then we take those folks. It's kind of a niche that we look for, but there's so much need out there that we don't have a difficult time finding these folks. And they're actually nationwide. They're people from Utah, California, Florida, that know of us, and families. You know, families get how much time do I have? 1 minute. Families, whether it's addiction, mental health, or other traumatic brain injury, families do the best they can. Typically, a typical family will keep going. And it just gets up, and before you know it, they're underwater, and you can't do anymore. And this, for example, happens in TBI cases where someone's on a TBI rehab, trauma rehab unit, and then the biggest problem the social workers have is, hey, Joe's coming home. Joe, we got Joe's phone. He's coming home by Friday. It's like Tuesday. And the family said, we can't take it. We're done. I mean, that's terrible. It does happen. And that's where we come in, and that's where, like, the impulse to traumatic brain injury is why we're trying that program, because there's so much needed. That's a good question. Any other questions? I would think I'll get bumped out with the food.
I'm curious, you know, so these, my understanding is you work with other providers to provide the care that these people need. You don't have specific locations where you provide.
We have, well, we have the mental health center down in Quakertown. We have a network of all of our staff, all of our residents that have PCP. They tend to be, whatever nearby. Some of the folks from Philly, they still have their PCP down in maybe the suburbs of Philly, and we will transport them down there. And a number of the veterans may be going to the Philly VA for services, drive them down. So we link with that. But what we do, which I think is unique, is if somebody needs a particular special need, a service, some form of the trauma treatment that we don't do, we will contract, of course, it is we have to associate with it, but we will contract with an outside provider who doesn't work there to come in and do that work. So we can psychiatrist at the mental health.
What kind of staffing do you have?
Well, I can say this, Peggy had a whole bunch of envelopes that she did, is it Kathy?
Yeah.
We got a whole bunch of envelopes and we'll put this pitch out to everybody, we are hiring. I mean, we like every other human service organization in the area is stressed, it's difficult, staffing is difficult. And in fact, I've told people when I get to a senior fair or some fair or health fair, I've got one with Joe Emmert recently, and I tell folks, listen, and if you ask every table, do you need staff? Do you have enough staff? Everyone's gonna say no. The ones that say, oh, we're okay, you may note that their hand is behind their back. Oh, yeah, we're good. But they got their fingers crossed, or they're just sitting. So, but we're having, we're involved in job fairs and like other organizations. I sit on the subcommittee with Magellan Insurance that we're gonna hold a large job fair. You know, any number of folks are, it's really anyone that wants to contribute. Not at the Penn State there on campus on April 13th. And it's a 13th. It's all right.
So I just have one more, if somebody needs your services, do they come to you directly or are they usually referred from another organization?
No, it's a combination. Some people are searching online. Behavioral health resident facilities nearby, boom, and we come up, but we are a member of ARDA. ARDA is just, you just have to be.
The American Residential Treatment Association.
There's about 40 some organizations that do our kind of work. We're kind of unique, even amongst that specialized group that are basically they're out, I think, as far as Colorado, Florida, and they'll refer to us because they know that when they have somebody in their program, like they just can't manage anymore, they know that we will at least look at it. Yeah, at least.
We work with educational consultants and therapeutic consultants.
And it's mostly or a high percentage of the people that you get to work with.
Our average, we have folks from 18 to, we had a guy that was 90, probably the oldest person in their late 80s. Young guy in the 90s. So it's a wide range. In fact, there was a time when we touted a young adults program at the second floor at Montrex Manor Personal Care in Linecourt, all young adults. We ended that because for those of us who have a lot of kids, too many kids together, there's more mischief than what you may want to deal with. And then we found that we thought, you know, it's better to mix these kids all around the home. So they're with a guy like Schmo, that's maybe 75 years, get to interact with people of a different age rather than that.
These students, do they have a training period before they're put out on the floor with these individuals? How long?
There's an orientation period. Well, it's a kind of thing where, say, if the orientation period lasts a month, what we do and what from my experience, what hospitals do is you have a checklist, you have to demonstrate that you can do service.
Okay.
All right. So if little Johnny here is 18, just out of Nazareth High School's first job, and his checklist isn't complete after a month, we don't tell him, go away. We don't care. We say, Johnny, we're going to keep on orientation for another time. Okay. And so to work with people, because the fact is people come with a variety of different skills, and younger folks in particular, I don't know what your experience with younger people, sometimes I've crossed my kids there. They kind of knew everything when they were 16. And, but they have to learn. And it's a lot of coaching. We've recently developed what's called a career ladder. Looking at the roles when someone comes in, okay, someone comes in as a PCA, that's like a nurse's aide type.
Okay.
We don't expect that person to be with us for 30 years. But we expect them to be there long enough so they can improve their skills and we can work with them. And if they want to move up within our organization, they're welcome to do that. we're trying to look at them in terms of retention and recruiting and retention. You need those programs. Because kids want to know, what am I gonna do? Where will I end up? What could I possibly do? And, I can tell them my story for an example of a guy that did as a kid. Worked in the cardboard box factory, a little dishwasher when I was a teenager and all that, and you keep working, you apply yourself and dedicate yourself to your lifelong learning and your personal improvement.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, after 6 months of employment, you can become certified to be a traumatic brain injury specialist. And then we pay the bill for that. We also do offer some tuition reimbursement as well. So there's definitely some perks there or somebody that wants to get into behavioral health.
And that's a good point. Basically, we have the circumstance and situation laid out. And it's up to the person to engage it. I mean, if you get some young folks in there where you can see the maturity level wasn't there. They're gonna be okay. You know, some folks don't really, your brain doesn't really fully develop until you're around 26. And that's when your car insurance companies drop your car insurance. They know that, all right, the kid made it to 26. He turns drive. I don't know if that's the case in all cases, but the point is that it's kind of like when we consider ourselves a community. Everybody has a limit in what they can do. Like, for example, I come to this gentleman here, and your appendix, you hurt? Yeah. No, I'll cut it out, but you run the other way. Because I'll never be a surgeon. I don't have the capability to be a surgeon, the desire, but everybody has that feeling, if you will. And even with our folks that we take care of, everybody's got, and our goal is to get both staff and residents up to that, as close to that max as they can. So you feel good about yourself. You have a history of accomplishments. The little tapes in your head are positive. Your self-talk is positive. Because if your self-talk is negative, you're going to have trouble. And that's often a result of trauma, addiction, how you treat the trauma, if you treat it with addiction. So it's that kind of thing. It's a great organization to be with. I don't have to be working there, to be honest with you, at my age and means. I don't need to be there. I'm there because I really enjoy the people I work with and feel and just have a sense of gratitude of helping people out that clearly have challenges that thankfully probably none of us ever or will ever have. It's that kind of very rewarding for me.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.